Hello there and welcome to Stick Around. Clive here, I'm here to do a film review today of Is This the Greatest Show? The Greatest Showman. The Greatest Showman is a 2017 musical film directed by Michael Gracie. It stars Hugh Jackman, Zac Efron, Rebecca Ferguson, Michelle Williams and Zendaya. I nearly said Zenyatta there, that's a character from Overwatch. Zendaya. The film is inspired by P.T. Barnum and his creation of his circus, which was called Barnum and Bailey Circus. It kind of chronicles his life. It's a sort of biopic in a way, although a very short one. This is one of those weird ones. It's done amazingly well. I mean, it's still, it's just come out on Blu-ray and it's still in the cinema, which I can't remember the last time that happened, to be honest. Pretty impressive, but critics at the time when it first came out didn't like it. Audiences seemed to love it, so one of those intriguing things that there was something that stopped me seeing it, which I'll go into later, but I finally got around to seeing it, and here's my thoughts. I thought Hugh Jackman was great. I think he played the lead sort of larger-than-life character really well. I thought Michelle Williams was good as his wife. I thought everyone else was fine. Nothing else really stood out. To me, the plot felt quite rushed. Like, every time a scene played out, it seemed it was there exactly to advance the plot, and then, bam, it just disappeared again and moved into another thing. And it felt like I didn't have any time to kind of live and breathe in that particular scene. Everything felt like a little bit too quick, and everything felt very kind of functional, and like I say, it was everything was there to move the plot on, rather than there was never any sort of immersion for me, and that really took me out of it. Oh, rather than going to another scene, a song starts playing, which the songs, as good as they are in some cases, I'll go into later, never really help to build any of the characters. And whenever the song starts, it just feels like, for me, it felt too early in the scene. In pretty much all the cases, it felt like, oh, you know, you've not laid the foundations yet for this song to really kind of impact me. I'm not invested in the characters in this scene. I'm not invested in what's going on. And yet the song kicks in. It feels like you need to do that beforehand, before the song kicks in. And then the song maybe elevates your feelings of those things that you felt about the scene. Whereas all the songs just seem to start too early. I mean, but this brings me on to my next point, and I think which is why the film is so successful. The song starts and you're like, oh, it's starting too early, I'm not into this. But then your body starts reacting to this song in a way that's like, oh, I'm into this now. And it's because of they've thought through the chord progressions, they've got, 8 million people singing in certain bits to make these kind of rousing choruses. And you just can't help but kind of be affected by it just because of the kind of production, and it's been thought through, but it feels kind of mechanical, like it's drawing something out of you. That you can't really help. You feel, or at least I felt a little bit cheated about it, and it's kind of a weird feeling. To me, the songs are great, and I think they would have been super effective, and that feeling wouldn't have been there if the rest of the film had been better. A particular highlight song-wise is This Is Me, which again features this kind of rousing chorus of tons and tons of voices and builds up as you go along, and it's a really powerful song about just being who you are and not being ashamed of yourself, and has this really great message. And it's the type of song that you do just want to smash a door down and go, this is me, deal with it. But in the context of the film, I still felt kind of cheated, like it hadn't really built things up well enough, and it just the scene that it's in had just been kind of ham-fisted in there to make this song fit in. It didn't feel as impactful as it could have to me. There's other songs that are good too, and I won't go into them individually. I want to make this a fairly quick review. But once the song's finished and you drop back into the film, that's when it's back to reality, and you realise that you're not really drawn to the characters, who in my opinion are criminally underdeveloped, because of the fact that a lot of the film is these songs, and the songs don't really develop the characters, and the rest of the scenes aren't long enough. Like I say, the story for me wasn't particularly engaging. It just felt a bit like a sort of highlight reel of his life, and didn't particularly draw me in at any point. Finally, of note, which is what I want to say at the start about why I hadn't watched the film, which is the fact that P.T. Barnum's darker side isn't touched upon in the film at all, really. I mean, they do mention the fact he's a bit selfish and that he's a bit of a con man. He claims that his tallest man is taller than he actually is. He claims the biggest man he's got is bigger than he actually is. Things like that, but he doesn't really go into the depths of what he actually did, which essentially, I mean, if you read up about it, he essentially made money by taking advantage of African Americans, and also spread a lot of hoo-ha about animals, so that for his own benefit, such as that elephants couldn't feel in their trunks, so that he could, so that people would think that his training methods of burning them in their trunks was fine. Just a lot of things like that. Where if you read, I'll post a link to an article down there because I don't want to go into it all now. But there's basically a lot of dark things he did. He wasn't this guy. He didn't treat his employees as nicely as the film portrays. He wasn't this great shining beacon of brilliance as the film, and this sort of perfect man that the film seems to depict him as, which I thought was a bit of a shame. And I know it's supposed to be a loose adaptation. It's obviously supposed to be a feel-good film, so I understand why it didn't go into those dark things, but I do think that they perhaps shouldn't have used his actual name. Like, fair enough, base it loosely on the story, change the main character's name, change, other things around it. You don't need to make it a biopic. Use certain bits of the story that you like and the messages that you want to portray, but don't use his name and then make it quite clearly about him, and then don't touch on these things at all. That just didn't sit very well with me. I think if you change the name, it would have been more obvious that it's entirely fictional and that what you're seeing is very fictional, whereas it's not as obvious with it being based on a true story and using the proper names. I understand why people like it. I mean, it's got really good songs. It's kind of bam, bam, bam. There's very little gaps in between the songs. It's, just kind of going for the highs all the time. But for me, it didn't really lay the foundations enough for those highs to have the impact on me personally. That's just my opinion. As are all these reviews. Tea of judgment time. I am feeling I've kind of been debating between a 5 and a 6 for this, because does it do more good than it does bad? Does it do equal amounts? For me, I'm going to go with a 5. I think it does about equal good and bad. The songs are great, and I suppose they're about half the film, and they're fun and sing-alongable, and even though at times you feel cheated, I think that is because of the fact that the stuff beforehand wasn't bringing those emotions out in me, and then suddenly the music does. I'm like, whoa, this feels wrong. Whereas if the stuff beforehand had been good, then I'd have been completely fine with the songs being as they are and having these kind of rousing million voices going on and very effectively kind of orchestrated and composed to bring feelings out of you. I think that's fine. But in the context of the film, it doesn't really work as such, because the feelings kind of feel fake, which I suppose is fitting with this being about a con man, but I think that would be stretching it a bit as a compliment for the film. So yeah, I'm gonna give this a 5. I was a bit disappointed. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Comments below, please. I'll be posting more videos here about whatever films I watch, whatever video games I play, whatever music I listen to. So, stick around for those if you'd like. Press the subscribe button. That'd be much appreciated. And remember, be kind to each other.